876 stream. Bless up.
So, the defending champions are the first team through to the round of 16 of the greatest show on earth. One down, 15 more to go. We still have 31 teams in the competition. And a past winner picking up their first win of the tournament. Disappointment for CONCACAF. A victory for UEFA. And also a victory for AFC. All of this and more coming up in Now Streaming Qatar.
876 stream. Bless up.
So groups C and D took center stage today at the greatest show on earth. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to our coverage of Now Streaming Qatar. I'm Simon Preston. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is 876 Stream J8. Don't forget to hit that like and also subscribe button as well. We're also on Instagram as well, and you guys can stay tuned for updates throughout the course of the competition, tidbits, did you know facts, and that is 876 Stream. And also on Twitter as well, Stream 876 for all the latest content for the next 3.5 weeks or so. You want to stay tuned for that, trust me. A lot of great content coming your way. I'm sure you guys would have seen already information regarding the French team and what they have done. And we'll get to that quite shortly. We certainly will. And we'll also have another guest joining us on the panel for this afternoon. But firstly, let us introduce the guest that we have at this point in time, and it's none other than Jamal Tucker. Jamal, how are you doing? All is well?
Yeah, doing good, not too bad. It's a Saturday,
Yeah.
so there's a little less stress, and you can focus on the football, so it was a good day.
Yeah, I understand exactly what you mean. You got some rest, especially after the Dutch dropping 2 points yesterday.
Yes, I was able to sleep comfortably, actually. I still think that this is a competition that we can go far in, considering the talent pool available to us. And I still believe that, the best of the Dutch team is yet to come. I mean, this is a team that went to the Nations League semis and played well throughout that entire competition not too long ago. I know they can blow hot and cold sometimes, that's how they are, but I'm not really worried. So.
And generally speaking, when you look at the tournament as a whole, only one team so far has gone on to win back-to-back at the tournament. So it just shows the level of competition so far that we've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're talking about a prestigious group, Brazil and Italy, So when you look at that, and then you look at how France have been getting on, for example, and then when you consider how the past champions have been getting on lately as well, you realize that really and truly, this is a competition that it takes a lot to win. So, the different teams: France, Argentina, Brazil before, Netherlands, as you asked me about, here England.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy for anybody, and Jeff Spain. It's not going to be easy for anybody.
Yeah, because he has the Germans tomorrow. So, I mean, we'll get to that later in the show, but certainly a tough test for him. And just a reminder to the folks back home as well, you can let us know your thoughts as well in the comments as well. Give us your feedback. Any questions you have for Jamal as well, and also Owen, who will join us quite shortly as well, as relates to the tournament itself, the matches today, and everything surrounding it, really. So we look forward to what you guys have to say where that is concerned. Do let us know. Do like this video again and subscribe to 876 Stream JA for all the latest information. So Jamal, let's start with the last match that we saw today, and I'm sure a lot of Jamaicans were a bit nervous, a couple of butterflies in their stomach, especially for the Argentine fans, especially after the opening day. It just goes to show the talent, especially what you saw from the second half from that Argentine outfit. The class stood out there on the field.
Well, I mean, for Argentina and Argentina fans, I'm sure they probably have seen this kind of performance before. From when we were watching the Saudi game, we were saying, if it happens to anybody, it tends to happen to Argentina. Right? These kind of shock defeats in the group stages. But they are past champions, and they are current South American champions. So they at least know how to get a victory. I mean, with the exception of that Saudi game, they have been, or at least avoiding defeat for a long time. So I suppose if you look at that, you probably wouldn't have been too worried. And when you have one of the greatest of all times on your team, the truth is there's not a whole lot you can do wrong. One way or the other, he's gonna get it done, or you expect him to. And if he doesn't do it, then one of the other talented players will get it done, and that's what happened today. We got the GOAT himself, or one of anyway, and then you got one of the youngsters coming through and doing nothing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So that man, Lionel Messi, scoring today, that's his 8th World Cup goal. So CR7, 8 World Cup goals. Lionel Messi also 8 World Cup goals as well. So neck and neck at this stage. We'll see how that sort of seesaw goes.
How much does Pele have? Because I know Messi leveled Maradona with that 8th goal. I don't know how much Pele has for...
so Pele has scored 12 World Cup goals. Okay. So the second most for any Brazilian with this competition. So Miroslav Klose leads the way.
And then Ronaldo.
Yeah, of course, the Brazilian Ronaldo. Jared Muller, 14 goals. And just Fontaine of France, who Kevin and I were speaking about a little bit earlier.
I want to see some videos of that World Cup, because he scored all of those in just one, didn't he?
Yeah, all of them in just one World Cup.
It's ridiculous. Did France even win that year?
No, they came third. That was Pele's first World Cup, the 58 one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so France actually, they came third in that World Cup, so they lost to Brazil in the semi-finals. So he scored his goal in bunches, like 2 a game. Yeah, because it was 6 games that France played in that World Cup. And yeah, in just one tournament that he played. Born in Morocco, played for France.
I feel like it off account. I don't know why.
Really?
Something about it just feels kind of suspect. But I won't get into that.
I mean, you'd even have people that would say, look at the ball, the boots, even back in '66 in England's day.
That makes it more impressive, they said.
They would say that. Yeah, that's what most would say.
Look,
during that time.
When you're watching football now versus when you're watching it from 10 years ago and 10 years in the future from now, it's all going to look different, but it's all the same game. The ball was more or less round back then as well, but it was difficult for them now. And difficult for whomever is playing now. It was difficult right around. I wouldn't go 1-to-1 in terms of comparison of the football back then versus football now. But at the end of the day, it's the same game that's being played. So what I would say is that the game nowadays is much faster. The players themselves are fitter. They're better trained. They're more intelligent, I think, at the game itself, because just the coaching that you go through, the education you go through just to play the game at any level, let alone when you get to the highest level, is, I think, so far superior to what was there before. What you probably had before was maybe an ingenuity or an intuition that those players had more than nowadays. But no, it's just as hard then as it is now. So I was only saying that as a joke, but I still think it just sounds strange to score 13 goals in one World Cup.
in 6 games. Yes, I mean, as you rightly said, in terms of players know their routine in terms of diet and everything is better now compared to then, where there might be a drinking culture, or, to be frank, even a smoking culture back in that period of time, because that was recreational.
Yeah, it was thought as a good thing also.
Yeah, and it would be seen as something that is necessary, whether pre-game or post-game, but it's just compelling how things have just changed over the decades for these sorts of individuals as a whole.
But have you watched those videos though? Because I remember I see some of them, even like players like Bobby Charlton, George Best and those guys, and that's not even as far back as them. Di Stefano and people like that. Like when those guys were playing football, and like defending wasn't really a thing. I just see guys just charging in, sliding left and right, and if you had any amount of composure and ball control, you beat like a million players, and then you look like a god, But I guess, like I said, it's the same game that was being played then as being played now. So I'll give them their props where it's due.
Yeah, because if you look at the formations at that time, you'd have a 2-3-5.
Yeah, exactly.
Two defenders.
I want to see somebody try that in this day and age.
Well,
I think the closest we got to it was like Barcelona's 2011, 2010 team around that time.
Right, yeah.
Because, Puyol and Piqué just stayed anchored. And then you had Busquets, the 2 fullbacks at the time, as that 3, and then everybody else was playing up front. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's probably the closest we ever got to it. But it just shows you, like, the game is different then as it is now.
Yeah, I think it's funny because every decade or so, we see something that people might say, about like when England won the World Cup, they didn't play wingers, so that's why they're called the wingless wonders. So people were expecting them to go out wide and stuff like that, but they started to go centrally, and the opposition was like, why aren't you going out there to cross the ball? But instead, they're inverted and just going centrally instead. And then, of course, you spoke about the Barca, so we'll see what the next decade holds. Football is changing,
Nowadays we're getting inverted fullbacks.
Right, exactly.
Who's to know? Maybe we get another thing that we saw before. Come back into fashion.
Perhaps.
Maybe like a libero, because centre backs are playing football more freely these days. So maybe we're gonna get some more Lucios running around, just dribbling straight through the middle of the field.
Yeah, and I mean we've seen in recent times as well the wingers. Like I'm right-footed, but I go to left back because I can be able to have that ability to use my right foot. So so it's interesting, that inverted wing approach or wing back. We'll see how things progress where that is concerned. But just to recap, it's Gabriel Batistuta that is Argentina's highest scorer in World Cup history, and he has 10 goals, while Lionel Messi has 8. And Jamal was asking earlier about Pele, and for those that are just tuning in, thank you guys so much for doing so. We really appreciate it. Hit that thumbs up as well, and subscribe to 876 Stream JA. And just to recap, it's Miroslav Klose with 16 goals, the Brazilian Ronaldo with 15, Gerd Müller 14, Just Fontaine of France 13 goals, the legendary Edson Arantes do Nascimento 12 goals to his credit. Sandor Kocsis of Hungary, 11 goals, alongside Jürgen Klinsmann of Germany with 11. Helmut Rahn, 10 goals of Germany. Gabriel Batistuta, 10 goals. Gary Lineker, England's highest scorer in a World Cup with 10 goals. Harry Kane has 6, so if Harry Kane scores 5 goals in this World Cup, then that could change. It could.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Gerd Müller, the highest in terms of active players right now with 10. And Grzegorz Lato of Poland also with 10. So if Lewandowski wants to get into that conversation, he has to score a lot more, because today was his first goal. But yes, you were saying, because according to my math, 6 plus 5 equals 11.
Yeah, that's math, Simon. But we're talking about reality.
Well, for a lot of teams in this World Cup, they're relying on maths to stay in the competition. But I do get the point that you're trying to make in there. But yeah, because England would have to lose 4-0 to Wales to not get to the round of 16. And in the round of 16, it's either Senegal or perhaps the Ecuadorians.
And what you're saying is that between then and that game, Harry Kane is going to score a hat-trick or so?
No, not a hat-trick, no. Probably a brace in a game.
That's a brace.
Yeah.
So you're assuming then that after the round of 16, you guys have another game to play?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. Confidence is key, as they say at the end of the day. Let me take some of the comments that we have tuned in. Matthew Williams says, the GOAT doing GOAT things. Thank you very much for tuning in, Matthew Williams. That's, of course, the key physio for the Jamaica Tallows, as we know, champions of the CPL. So big up to Matthew for jumping in the comments. Really appreciate it. Jenna says, y'all got stream on IG. Yes, that is correct. It is called 876 Stream on IG. So go ahead and follow us as well. Robert Room says, big up Taco. So definitely getting some good feedback within the comments there. Yeah. Yeah, so we're talking about Argentina a little bit early and everything. We saw this at the last World Cup where the Argentine team, they started off their campaign with a draw to Iceland. They lost to Croatia 3-0. And then here comes Messi with his contribution against Nigeria. And they're in the round of 16. So the big moments, that determines where you are as a player. And you can understand the levels, as Jeff was talking about earlier. You have elite or world class. You can be a great player, good player, or mediocre. And there's a reason why he's in that upper echelon, so to speak.
Oh, definitely. So there's this thing that in my friend group, we talk about a world class player, versus that elite or good player. The world class player, you have to get that moniker, because he can be good, right? Yeah. But you have to be consistently good, and when you're consistently good, you become great. But then to get to that next level of elite, you have to be playing at that level for a while, or at least playing at such a high level consistently,
right? For
more than just games. We're talking like seasons.
Yeah.
And then to get to that world class level, you have to have had at least one moment. That's how we put it. By that I mean, take for example a Messi for right now. Right. You just mentioned the Argentina-Nigeria game. That would be a moment, right? At least one. I mean, he's had many
Right.
moments, but he's at least had that one moment. Cristiano Ronaldo has had many.
Yeah.
Zlatan Ibrahimovic has had many.
Yeah.
Lewandowski has had many as well.
Right.
I mean, that what was it? Wolfsburg,
Yeah.
that 9 minute spell where he scored 5 goals.
Right.
What in the, like? How do you do that as a player? You know,
Yeah.
that is exceptional. So you have to have
Tremendous.
had a moment as a player to really be considered world class. But then when you're talking about players like a Messi and Ronaldo, their entire career is built on those moments. Like, that's just a different level, because you're watching this game, right? And you're seeing Argentina struggle to break down Mexico. And you're thinking, oh, it's just going to go down to the wire. It's just going to be a 0-0. Maybe Mexico steals something on the break, right? You're genuinely expecting them to falter. I have nothing against Argentina, and I have nothing against Messi. Ronaldo is my baller, but, you know, Messi is his greatness, and you have to appreciate that.
Right.
But, like, you love an underdog story. You anytime you see like the minnows about to take down the Giants, you're rooting for them, although they're not even supporting the team. You just you want to see it happen, you know, just for the drama, just for the excitement. And I'm watching this Mexico team, and though I said earlier that I'm not in favor of any CONCACAF team doing better than anybody else, because me did want Jamaica go there, not them. I was watching this Mexico team thinking, come on guys, you can steal something.
Yeah.
And then Messi just loitering in the middle of the field, picks up the ball,
Space.
just turn, boom, goal.
Yeah.
Easy as that. You know, like, that's just... And actually, as it turns out, he even got the assist for the second one, I think. I think it was his pass to Fernandez, or did somebody else pass it on to him after that?
Yeah, somebody pass off after that.
Okay.
Yeah. But still,
But yeah,
a splendid
you know, he was
strike,
part of the
Build up,
play.
yeah.
But it's just, you know, and you can't measure for that.
Yeah.
There's no amount of planning for that. You just think at all costs, don't let him do something with the ball, and then you leave him alone for just like 3 seconds, because they weren't far away from him. You know what I mean? But that's what you get when you have somebody like that on the team.
Yeah, and as you said, you spoke about moments earlier, and certainly that in particular was a moment. And a conversation that I've had with, you know, various members of the panel as well. I don't think I've gotten your opinion into as well on the Mexico side of things. Jimenez is their number 9. He didn't start today. Did Mexico perhaps drop the ball by not saying, come Carlos Velo, come Chicharito, come to our World Cup, let's see what you can do?
No, we definitely spoke about it, because I'm in agreement with you. I believe Vela, Chicharito, those two, at least one of them should have been here. There's no two ways about it. Like, you needed at least a Chicharito or a Vela. I mean, look, I'm not saying that any one of them would have made a difference in this game.
Yeah.
You know, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that when you have players like that in your team, it makes a difference. You know, that's why Ochoa was called up. That's why Guardado would have been called up and continues to be called up, right? It's because of things like that. You have players in other teams. I think Glick was the oldest outfield player until Canada's captain came on. Right? There you go. Those are two players, again, super old, but they're there because of what they bring to the team outside of legs and football. It's just what they carry into the dressing room, right? And Avila and Chicharito can, in games like that, still come up with something. I would say this way. One of those crosses that Chucky got late in the game,
Yeah.
right? One of them could have finished that. And it's a different game. It would
Wow.
have either been 1-0 before Messi scored his, or 1-1.
Right.
And that would make them nervy towards the end of the game. Maybe somebody slip up again, and all of a sudden it's 2-1. Or even you just get a point out of it. Who knows? You have it's a point under their belt already.
Right.
And you leave Argentina on 1 point. You give yourself 2 going into a game against a opponent that you expect to have a decent game against, right?
Right.
So it's like, that's what you get. We're just talking about Messi, right?
Right.
We're just talking about Messi. Those guys have had moments for the Mexican team and for their club team as well, which is obviously where they will be picked from,
Yeah.
right? They've had many moments in their club career and lately, so it's not like it's something that they're used to do back in the day. They're still having those moments. You pick those guys on the team because you expect that they'll get another moment. It's the same way you don't bet against certain man on a team, because it's like, yo, and then like you'd say no, he's not gonna do it. 2-2s, you see him do it, and you just think naturally, You know,
Yeah.
that's a Vela, that's a Chicharito in this Mexican team, and they're missing that.
Absolutely. You could definitely see that there, especially in terms of the way that they're performing. In Chicharito, he's their highest goal scorer in World Cup history as well, Javier Hernandez. So it clearly shows the impact. He's still scoring goals in Major League Soccer. So certainly a trick there from the Mexican side of things that they could have enhanced. But you spoke about Guardado as well, and just to let everyone know, he's now the 6th player in World Cup history to play at 5 World Cups. Again, a feat that is extremely difficult to do. Extremely difficult. So, and it's a compelling case when you're bearing in mind that you have 4 of those players as Mexicans to go on and do that. The Antonio Carvajal of this world, Rafael Marquez, and the other goalkeeper Ochoa.
I feel like Marquez has been playing forever.
It does feel that way,
Like,
doesn't it?
in all of my entire footballing life, by that I mean since I've known myself to be watching and following football, Rafael Marquez has been playing. He's probably playing somewhere right now. I just don't know it. You know, that guy's been in football forever. So I'm not surprised that he has, those longevity records for Mexico. Good player too.
Yeah, this on your screen is Mexico's history in World Cup, and Jamal, as you can see, they've hit a hurdle. You know, when you have a sprint hurdler come out to the blocks, and when he comes to and hit the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in Mexico's case, it's the second one for the past 7 times.
Yeah, they're a team. Look, I was never convinced of them in this CONCACAF campaign, qualifiers campaign. I really thought Jamaica could have done better against them both times.
Home and away,
Home and away, right? They should have, actually. But the fact that they didn't is whatever. Maybe it's a testament to the dominance that Mexico has in the region. But that aside, I really wasn't convinced of them, and I knew that they'd get on the big stage and they wouldn't be that impressive. But then at the same time, I also knew they'd probably get out of the group. Because that's the one thing that they've always managed to do, as we saw from the graphic. And they've gone on better than that before, obviously. But it's just, you expect them to get out of the group. They manage their rounds well in terms of getting 3 games under their belt that get them enough points. And I expect that they would still be able to do that. You know, I think they still can do that, even with the loss and the draw. I still see where they could do that. They'll need help, but I still see where they could do that. And after that, then they can just take their leave. And to get out everybody's way to the football play.
It would mean potentially a matchup against the French in the last 16.
There you go. So that's the story written right there. France knocked Mexico out of the round of 16 again.
Or the defending champions suffer an early elimination.
Nah, I doubt that. Who's gonna beat them? Mexico? It's not gonna happen. I really think that the round of 16s, as far as this Mexico team goes, they're one of the weakest teams that I've seen, not overall in the World Cup, but one of the weakest Mexican teams I've seen in a very long time.
Certainly, it feels quite compelling when you bear in mind a lot of these teams are coming to a transition. Costa Rica, we spoke about their age as well. The Mexican team as well. Canada, having a couple of players above the age of 30 as well. The United States, just in terms of CONCACAF, the United States is the only one really that you could say in that rebuilding. Phase.
I mean, we have a couple of young players as well that don't get called up nearly enough as they should do. But I'd say, if I include us, that is Jamaica, and the US, we're probably the only 2 teams with any real option to get into the World Cup that have players or have like a generation to call upon right now. And they're not trying to get the last dregs out of a previous one. So it's interesting, like I said, that is the case. But it just bodes well for us going forward. That means that we really should be targeting, this is Jamaica again, we really should be targeting these upcoming competitions, the Gold Cup, Nations League. And I mean, oh my God, if we... I can't even fathom the thought of having Canada, Mexico, and the US hosting the World Cup next time around. And we... 48 teams, and we still don't make it. If that happens, I guarantee you that's the end of my support of the Reggae Boys, because there is no way, like, all the odds are stacked in our favor, and still we can't make it.
Yeah, it's 3 automatic spots, so it's definitely like a situation where the goalkeeper is not in goal, and all you have to do is tap in.
I swear to you, if you sky that. If you if you hit the post, it still look bad. You know what I mean? So genuinely, I think we have. So just talking about the next 2 competitions in terms of the Gold Cup and the Nations League, we have like a real opportunity. But then in terms of the World Cup itself going forward, it's now that we need to start blooding these players because, as you said, the region, largely with the exception of the US, clearly they're going through a rebuild, and that's not something that happens overnight. So we should take advantage of that now.
All right, let's now take a look ahead in the previous fixture that happened today, and that was the French, who are the first team to not only book their place into the last 16 of this tournament, but also the first team to win back-to-back games in this tournament itself. We saw England start with a win, but they drew their second game. Similar with the Dutch as well. So the France are now the first team to go and win their opening 2 games. Of course, they defeated the Australian team in that opener, and then of course in their next game against Denmark today, 2-1 victory. Jamal, they had to grind out a result today. They scored first, the Danish came back, and Kylian Mbappe once more with his piece of brilliance for the French team to secure their passage to the next stage.
Yeah, I have to say, as a player, I think Mbappe is just fantastic. I mentioned this the last time I was here that 4 years since he's played at the last World Cup.
Yeah.
As a person, he may have not grown in the way that as a role model you'd hope he would have grown, but as a player, it's just growing from strength to strength. And I think never mind the goal record for the World Cup, which I think is firmly in his sights given his age and his ability at this moment.
Oh, you think he can break the closer record?
Absolutely. I mean, look, he's only 9 off now, right? That's not a lot to overcome.
Yeah.
Because let's just say for the rest of this competition,
Right.
he gets 3. Just to use a figure.
Right, because he's at 7 now.
Right.
And you go to 10 if he gets to 3.
And that's just using a figure.
Right.
There's every chance that he could get 2 in a single game or even a hat-trick in a single game, right? But if I just put it at 3, and then the next World Cup, when you expect theoretically he'd be in his prime, he could come back again and then match the record or even beat it by then. So it's very possible. But as a team, France, like I said, I couldn't tell you what they were going to be before the World Cup. And I don't think many people would have hazarded a guess.
Yeah.
But definitely since they've gone in and they've started playing, they've looked very impressive. And in my mind, they're growing as favorites as the competition progresses.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys would have seen the graphic that we've posted on the Instagram page quite early today, 876 stream, as it relates to those French players and their record in World Cups. Just Fontaine, he's leading the way with 13 goals, and Mbappe with his contribution today, now France's second highest scorer in World Cup history. He has 7, Thierry Henry 6, Michel Platini 5, and Zinedine Zidane also with 5 as well. Quite a bit of company for them to get into the grand scheme of things. So it really, really is something special in terms of that aspect in everything. So it's really, really good. At this point in time, what we're going to do before we delve a little bit deeper, what we're going to do is show you a challenge that was done quite early this week with a couple of our panelists, Stefan Hausen and Joel Lee, as they did the fork challenge. Stay tuned for that. This is the roll coin to fork challenge, and our analysts are taking part.
How did they roll this thing, right?
Jeff, you have the video?
I wonder what the technique is with it. This table's knackered. Oh my god!
Yeah.
These coins are not rolling. They're not it.
Prime Minister Holness, we need different coins.
Almost.
You know, the bird who touched the fuck.
Joe, what kind of that,
Yeah. So that was the coin and fork challenge. The England national team did it, and a couple of our panelists did as well. What are your thoughts? You could try it at home as well. Let us know how you get on as well. And we were going back to our panel discussion, and we're also joined by CEO of the JPL, Owen Hill, who was celebrating France's victory. So he's just joining us this afternoon.
I was in Lusail.
Drinking some wine and
Yeah,
cheese.
you know, no, champagne.
Champagne. Okay, wonderful. Yeah, your thoughts about the French performance today? You know, they had to grind out a result. You know. So
Yeah, it had me scratching my head a little bit, you know, at some point, because I felt like, you know, it wasn't the typical free-flowing football that you're accustomed to seeing France play. I thought, Denmark was very strategic. You know, they played in the lines and they made it very difficult. I didn't see much industry and skill from the French team, but again, top quality player shows up when it matters most. And I think that's what got them across the line. Decent enough performance, and I mean, when I was watching, I pretty much was looking at how they were recovering, like what kind of recovery and the personnel, because if you're gonna make a run deep in the tournament, you need quality players across who can double in positions that, you know, you're not naturally positioned in, but you can actually play.
Okay, and of course the Argentina game took center stage as well for a lot of Jamaicans as well, as you know, vast majority support that team as well. Your thoughts about how they got on? It's not the first time that we're seeing that number 10 come to the occasion.
Yeah, I was listening earlier, and I thought Jamal actually, you know, made it very, very clear. When you're a big player, you show up in big games. That's pretty simple. The top quality players do that all the time. You saw it, you know, Poland, Lewandowski. You saw it with France, with Mbappe, and then obviously Messi. You know, it wouldn't have been scripted if Messi didn't actually show up in that game. And he was just right on the money. He was there. He was threatening at different points.
Right.
Obviously needs support, but did what he needed to do. You know, low grounder. I thought that the keeper was unsighted. You know, had it been probably Martinez in goal, a bigger goalkeeper, you know, get a hand to it or something. But you can't take nothing away from the goal, and I think it was a very intense game. So for the result, I think it's a decent enough result for them.
All right, let's now have a look at the groups, Group C and Group D, and we see the permutations, what lies ahead. The results today, what does it mean for each team as well? This is Group C, and it's Poland sitting pretty on top. They have 4 points. Argentina with 3. Saudi Arabia also with 3. And Mexico with 1. Jamal, Mexico isn't out of it, is right? Because they could still get a result and progress.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's one of those things that happen in the World Cup normally, where you play your toughest games first and you try and get as much points out of that. And then, you know, in the final game, when stakes are already high, emotions are running high as well. You just go out there and you play your absolute hardest. And absolute hardest Mexico versus absolute hardest Saudi Arabia. I would think Mexico would get that victory. That being said, I was talking about it off air before, and I was saying, like, you know, Saudi Arabia basically the home team, or a home team,
Right.
in this competition, because, you know, Iran and Saudi Arabia are right by Qatar.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of support that's like just across the waters or the sand in this case. And they would have traveled as well to come and support. So they have all of that. Plus they have the high coming off of a 2-1 victory over Argentina. Like, you don't do that normally. And you got that. But I mean, I recognize what the challenge would be for Mexico. But I still think they can do it.
Yeah, and as well, Owen, you know, the high that Saudi was on for that first Saudi Arabia, as a player yourself, you would know it's difficult to replicate that excellence in back-to-back games. So you can understand perhaps it might have been subpar today, but, you know, certainly an opportunity as well for them. Yeah.
And, you know, you can't take nothing away from what they did, because I think they were just unlucky in some instances. They got some good enough chances. It's not like they played really horrible. It's just that they weren't clinical, and as a result of that, they lost the game. I think it was a very disciplined, tactical approach from Poland, and they knew what they were up against. I mean, even a missed penalty, it was a little bit unfortunate. And from what I've seen, the Saudi Arabia team is not going to just sit back and try to soak up pressure and play from the counter. No, they're going to go all out. So I expect in this final game, because they have nothing to lose really, they're going to go all out, and it should be a firecracker.
You know, our producer Jeff was asking where you played football, so I had to tell him Yui in the Premier League as well. You're part of that successful team, you know.
Right. I mean, that was back then. You know, I tried a little thing. I don't know how good I am now, but we can try.
I mean, he can come Sunday morning and see how it goes.
Yeah, we can try.
Yeah, definitely. And folks, you know, let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
By the way, I mean, I was listening and I hear you asking, you know, why shouldn't Chicharito be there or Carlos Vela? I'm like, yeah, you see, I could be there.
Yeah. Exactly. There you go. Quilistin got a job. And of course, you know, I don't think we had a chance to speak publicly about it. Congratulations on the appointment with the JPL. You know, how is the environment and surroundings and being in that day-to-day sort of function right now with everything?
It's an interesting job. It's a big job. One that comes with a lot of daily operational pressures, but good because we're in a very good period to have the discussion. You know. My job is pretty simple. Try to get the league to a level where players are being exported and the quality of the football is at a certain minimum standard. And that will facilitate us at least challenging for a place in the World Cup. That's kind of how I look at it. So I'm contributing in that regard. And the next time out in 2026, should be in, USA or Mexico or Canada, watching the World Cup with Jamaica in it. I mean, I may get a game somewhere.
I think that's important. That's something that's overlooked a lot of times from our local fans. The quality of the league, the top division, and the standard of football in it, sometimes is very indicative of what the team as a nation can do. We don't necessarily depend solely on homegrown players as some other teams would have. It's a model that we used in '98 that's just been used across the world as well. We tend to go for some of the overseas players, but I feel like what's lost a lot of times is just that Jamaican-ness, for lack of better words, when you're not a homegrown player. Not to say that the overseas UB40s couldn't come and do something for us, and they have done. Right. I just feel like the natural, for lack of better words, the natural born Jamaicans that grow in the culture, that just feel what it feels like to not be in the World Cup, to not have high quality
No, for sure.
Yeah,
For sure. I mean, looking at some other entities and you see, I saw Joby, I saw, Dame, and I'm wondering how do they feel, watching it and not being a part of it, considering Damon is an active player.
Right.
And Joby was, just recently a part of the Reggae Boy setup for the longest while. So
and Andre played in the league as well.
Andre. So when you look at these things, Simon and Jamal, I as a player, it must tug on your heartstrings.
Yeah.
So I think you made a very good point. How do you feel, and what does this do for your own development? If we create better leagues, if we create more spaces where people want to play football and coaches at a higher level, then we will have better football and we'll be challenging. I mean, I heard your comments. You don't like Mexico. I hear it. But I think you'd be better off if Jamaica was there. Not that you hate Mexico. It's just that you would rather Jamaica representing CONCACAF.
If somebody had to go from CONCACAF, why not us?
There you go. Yeah. So hopefully, in the next installment, we should be there, all things being equal.
And I mean, you've often spoken about your vision long-term and medium-term. And of course, we want to get to 2026. For you and everyone behind the scenes with the JPL, is there something short-term that you want to accomplish? Of course, Stream is helping with behind-the-scenes stuff and ensuring that the players get highlighted, get photos, videos, etc. Is something short-term you're hoping?
By the way, let me say it publicly. Which camera I should be looking at? That one. Main camera. Big up 876 Stream every single time. These guys are doing fantastic work, and I think the coverage of the local Premier League is top-notch, above average. It brings it into a different stratosphere. So I think, credit to 876 Stream and the team. I think they're doing a fantastic job.
Much appreciated.
As you mentioned about the vision, I mean, yes, there are some short-term goals that I have, and I would have just been, I got a button and I'm now running with it. I'm probably running the second leg or the third leg, who knows. But the point is there is a plan in place, and we're trying to just execute on that plan on a daily basis. So for me, it's aligned to getting more players, international exposure, so that they can earn professionally from their craft. That's really what it is. A lot of the players right now suffer from not being totally professional. So yes, they have the skill sets, but when they move into the league, it tends to dwarf. It goes right down because they're not in professional enough setups. You know, they don't get paid enough money to just focus on football. So a lot of what they see and they want to replicate, they can't because they just don't have the financial freedom to do that. So one of the things that I have as a short-term goal is to get players operating professionally, which simply means, getting more revenues in different ways, non-operational revenues, that is, because, it's easy to have the discussion about getting gate receipts, getting merch, blah, blah, blah. We're a small island developing state. We don't have the per capita to express that kind of freedom. So if it is that you have more talent being exported, I believe we'll be in a better position. Now, it may be counterintuitive to say export more talent, but if you start in the league earlier and you get exposed and you are exported earlier, then you'll be better off. So I would say no less than 5 per season being exported in different leagues across the world. And it might sound audacious, but I think it's very doable. And then the points of entry is where we need to focus on. Central America is a decent point of entry. The USA is a decent point of entry. Canada is now building their own league. So we should be looking at those places. I mean, it's ideal. You want to play in Germany, you want to play in England. But that may not be our first, rodeo into professional football. We start here, build in the next level, and then you keep moving. Right. And then you have quality talent that will, be exceptional. The Leon Baileys, the Bibi Gardners, the Rudolph Austins, who would have done it. But for the most part, if we have more of our footballers being exported, earning professional salaries and being in professional setups early enough, then I think would be in a better place.
Well said, well said. Really, really appreciate, we sharing this sort of insights and everything. And whenever, like you said, play expert, whenever they go, the country wins, Many people look at it as just the club is benefiting from the revenues, but all stakeholders involved at the end of the day.
Right.
Have
and
that sort of impact.
I'm at the point. I think we're winning right now in our administrative arm, i.e. the referees. We have a lot of referees who have matriculated to the highest level, FIFA level referees who are any major tournament that you possibly think about. There is a local referee who is a part of it. And I think those are the kinds of moves that I'm saying we should be making, which you can use as real benchmark to say, the next World Cup, hopefully we have 25 players playing in professional leagues across the world, not the JPL. And nothing is wrong with the JPL. We're just saying this is a first step in moving to the next step.
Yeah. Well said. And I'm sure you must be proud that, you have the head coach of the national team, the Reggae Boys, watching games and selecting players like we saw recently for the Cameroon game. So he's looking at the talent. There's talent here, and it has potential to go to the next level.
Certainly. Yeah,
definitely something to build towards. What we're going to take a look at is a Group D right now, those standings. And, of course, after that, look ahead to what lies ahead tomorrow. Of course, some massive, massive tests on the horizon. Group D, it's France on top with 6, Australia with 3, Denmark with 1, and also Tunisia with 1 as well. Jamal, again, another group where all of those 4 teams not out. It's just Qatar so far that is out of a chance to get to the round of 16.
Yes, you mentioned math earlier. That's a saving grace right now. I said it that I think it was yesterday when I was talking about Netherlands. You'd always prefer to have the points on the board than the games in hand, and this is what is coming down to now, where it's we can't make it. We can't make it. Just trust me. That's what you have to be telling yourselves. But really and truly, it's going to be an uphill battle for a lot of them. Mexico, for example, as I mentioned, they're playing a game against a Saudi Arabia team that they would think at least that they can beat. But then Tunisia, for example, they were already the weakest team, relatively speaking, in that group.
Right.
So when they're going into the final game with 1 point on the board, and they don't have an easy opposition, it's, you know, it looks a little rough. Now, the ball is round. We've seen it already in this competition alone. Stranger things have happened. But it's going to be an uphill task for anybody at this stage with that kind of pressure in front of them.
Yeah, Owen, your thoughts as well, you know, bearing in mind things, because Denmark, they didn't play bad today, but they would be buoyed by the fact that Australia is left on a win, and you could be in the round of 16, just like that.
Yeah, it right now France is the only team that is secure. Everybody else has it to play for, and this is why you're here. This is really why you're here. Give yourself an opportunity. Some, you know, a little bit more easier mathematically, but you have 90 minutes worth of football.
No, 110.
110, yeah. By the way, I must say I like this new rule.
Yeah.
I like it because it gives you a truer opportunity to see talent. You know, I hear people say time wasting is a part of the sport, which it is, because it's really strategy, just like how you set up a formation, whatever you want to call it. But if it is unnecessary, then I think it should be, you know, given back, which I think what FIFA is trying to do is to get football to actually win. So I like that, by the way. But you only have 90 plus to literally play for your next meal. You kind of look at it like that, you know. So all these guys are heroes. They're actually at top level footballing quality. So Tunisia, even though you're not, you know, on the board, it doesn't mean that you're not good enough. You know, you have an opportunity to do that and even just to represent. So you may not even win. It's just to play good enough football, because a lot of these players are now looking at, how can I extend my contract? How can I renew my contract? How can I get bigger salary with caps or spaces for myself or the club that I'm now vying for? So everybody really has it to play for. And then, you know, wherever the chips fall, it fall. I don't think nobody will be, you know, disheartened by the fact that, boy, you know, it didn't go our way right now. They're going to be playing football, and I think so far that's what we've seen. You know, I expected Mexico today to be a little bit more cagey, but then they took it to Argentina. You know, they weren't fearful, and similarly in other games you see where nobody is really fearful of anybody again. You know, regardless of whoever is the team that you're playing against, it's ball to ball, man to man. You know, talent to talent. Let's see who wins.
All right. Interesting. All right, and definitely we've seen that throughout the course of the competition so far, and certainly more to come, not only for this weekend, but also for future days to come. We're going to show you the fixtures that lie ahead for tomorrow before we wrap up the show. Just before that, a comment in from Fargal. Thanks so much for the pre- and post-game shows. The knowledge from the host and panelists is excellent and well received. There's always a ton load of information being shared. I'm always watching. Thank you very much for your feedback. We really, really appreciate it. So these are the matches tomorrow. Japan against Costa Rica. That's at 5 a.m. We, of course, will have our pre-game show at 7:15. Belgium against Morocco at 8 a.m. Croatia against Canada at 11. And at 2 o'clock, a repeat of the 2010 semi-finals. Spain against Germany. Jev against Joel. And we'll have the post-game show at 4 o'clock coming your way. Owen, which one of those four you're most looking forward to?
Spain versus Germany. I mean, it's an easy one. But the one that stands out most, because one, Germany's, you know, hovering off a defeat, and Spain is on a high, you know. So it should be a very, very good game. Both teams very tactical. Spain look a little bit more youthful, so they're free flowing, not the tiki-taka Spain of yesteryears, but still fluid. And Germany, you know, still look like they're in flight, you know. But this is Germany we're talking about. Exactly. You know, tomorrow they may just run riot, and they have quality players to do that. You know, so I'm looking forward to that game, and I think that's the game that everybody really would sit up and watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would concur as well, Jamal?
Yeah, definitely from a viewer standpoint, that's definitely what I'd be looking forward to. That's a showpiece event easily. But I think because I'm a bit of a student of the game, so I tend to look at things a little deeper and like pay attention to some of the storylines around these things. I'm interested to see what Belgium actually is able to do in their game tomorrow. Right, there's a lot of interest in the other ones as well, because Japan, for example, they have points on the board already.
Certainly,
you know, so a victory here,
yeah, man.
going
And they're
into
going
the,
through.
you know,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. So there's a lot of interest in the different games. But from a Belgian perspective, because even KDB, Kevin De Bruyne, he came out and said it himself that he doesn't think this team is at the level where it needs to be to win the competition, or even probably go that far. Interesting comments from him himself, but you know. It's a team of household names still. It's the same generation that they've been lauding for a long time. So I want to actually see if they can do something. They managed something in their first game, but what can they actually do? You know, so that's where my interest is. But definitely from just purely watching the game, yeah, Spain, Germany every day of the week. That's supposed to be interesting.
And of course, the Canadians, despite the result, wouldn't be disheartened by their performance because they came out very strong against the Belgians last Wednesday.
Yeah. There's nothing for them to look at that game and say, oh, we didn't play well. Because at the end of the day, it was just a one goal that decided it.
Right.
I mean, mind you, that's all you need. But they can feel like, you know what, if we were able to go up against Belgium and only come away with a narrow loss, then, you know, maybe coming up against other teams, they should do okay. So for them, that would be great. Of course, I already made my feelings known on the other CONCACAF nations. So
Definitely, we've heard that as well. We'll wrap up in just a moment or so. But Owen, just before we go, you know, our producer wants to ask you your thoughts about the England-USA game yesterday.
Wow.
Football versus soccer.
It's football versus soccer. It's a good debate. And why I say that is because we grew up calling it football.
Right.
You know, but culture is a hell of a thing.
Indeed.
So had we been, you know, U.S. citizens or you know, nationalities, if we were born in the United States, then we would be calling it soccer, right?
Typical.
So whether or not you call it football, soccer, ball, you know, anything at all you want to call it, I think the essence is the same, and it's a global sport now. You know, no country has any monopoly, any autonomy, any kind of intellectual rights on this thing.
Seem to think so. They think it's going home.
There you go. But that's fine. You know, that's okay. That's why we watch it. That's really what gives us the joy and the passion when they lose. Because you're like, yes, you know, in your face kind of thing. And that's fine. That's fine. But again, I think the quality is just the quality regardless. The United States have improved significantly, and you must give them credit. Whether or not they call it soccer, whether or not they dribbled from half line when they called it a penalty at the time, whatever they did.
Yeah, I remember that.
They are improving, and I must say that, you know, as Jamaicans, we probably should take a page out of their books.
All right. Thank you very much, Owen. We really appreciate you coming on. And Jamal, thank you very much as well. You guys will be able to see Owen again tomorrow afternoon after that Spain clash, and he'll tell us, you know, his thoughts there as well. So thank you again for being on. Really appreciate it. And thank you back home for tuning in as well. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to 876 Stream JA for all the content. Don't forget to join us tomorrow morning, 7:15 a.m. and our post-game show at 4 o'clock. Until then, bye-bye for now.